What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Raptors Report. It's time to talk about the Toronto Raptors. As we know, the trade rumors have been going absolutely wild, and they've been linked to two teams we've been hearing a lot of related to Pascal Siakam, but we've also got a division rival that may be interested in one of the Toronto Raptors role players. So I will be breaking all of that down for you in today's video. So if you're ready to watch, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout for today's video goes out to Coy McCoy. So Coy McCoy, thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now let's talk about Jake Weinbach, who was reporting that Indiana and Toronto could have mutual interest on a Pascal Siakam deal. The Raptors would value a 20-year-old rookie Juris Walker. Buddy Hield would likely be involved as well. However, the Pacers may be reluctant to sacrifice multiple key assets for a possible 6-month rental. Now, this shouldn't really come as to anyone's surprise that the Toronto Raptors would ideally want one of Juris Walker or Benedict Mathurin back in return for a Pascal Siakam trade. And I know, guys, I know what people are going to say in the comment section. There's no way you're getting Ben. I understand that those are two really good role players that most teams would want to hang on to. But as I've constantly stated, Indiana is one of those teams that could definitely use one of a player like Pascal Siakam. There's not too many forwards that are going to get traded in the NBA. And if they are, they're most likely going to want to go to other markets besides Indiana. And I'm not saying Pascal is fixated on going to Indiana, or even if he wants to go there. But if I'm the Indiana Pacers, I go for this deal. Now, in terms of the Raptors' point of view, Juris Walker is a good player who I'll discuss in just a moment, but Buddy Hield is an expiring contract. So the Pacers would have to throw in a little bit more to make the salaries work. But in terms of Juris Walker, now I know a lot of people are high on Juris Walker, and maybe it's just me based off some of the YouTube clips I've seen. I'm not sold on him as the main centerpiece of a trade for someone like a Pascal Siakam. Again, I want to remind fans before you say that's a lot to give up for an expiring contract that won't necessarily stay there. I do want to reiterate that when you're trading for the best player in the trade, it's most likely that you've won that trade. So Juris Walker, as promising as he may look, there's not a sure thing he won't be a bust. So you're essentially, if you're looking at this from a Raptors point of view, look, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that he'll be a bust, but if Juris Walker doesn't work out, you're getting an expiring contract in Buddy Hield, and then you're getting some salary fillers as well. Maybe a second-round pick, maybe a first if the Raptors are lucky. So again, like there's a lot of uncertainty when you're trading for younger guys, especially ones that are in their rookie contracts, right? So that's one thing I will say to a lot of people that may think you're giving up too much for Pascal Siakam. But in terms of Juris Walker, I want to quickly talk about his G League stats. So taking a look at his stats here, he's played about 6 games in the G League, has looked very impressive in 32.4 minutes, averaging 25 points, shooting 50% from the field on 17.3 attempts per game. Also, his 3-point shot has looked really well, 37.5% from the 3 on 6.7 attempts. His free throws are decent, 72.2%. He's a decent rebounder. I wouldn't say he's a great rebounder, averaging only 5.5 rebounds a game, 3 assists, 1.2 steals, and not even a block a game. So again, for someone that's listed at 6'7", around 235 pounds, I think the body frame of someone like a Juris Walker is kind of confusing, right? Because ideally, most 6'7" guys are able to be very mobile. You think of guys like OG Anunoby, look at other 3-and-D guys, but he's kind of in a weird fit where I don't want to say he's exactly like Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons, but he's kind of has this body, which is more of focus on, being a more power forward / center. Yet he's a little bit too short to be a center because of his height at 6'7". So I'm not saying he's a bad player before people come at me. And maybe, you know what, better about Juris Walker than I do based off the little research I have done. But it just seems like his body, his mechanics, his movement seems more of like that of a big man, yet his height doesn't necessarily indicate it. Again, Juris Walker is a great player. I don't know if I'm sold on him being the only centerpiece coming back. Again, I don't blame the Raptors for being greedy. When you're trading an all-star, when you're trading a 20-point-plus guy, who can pass, who can rebound, can do all sorts of things for you, I definitely want at least a little bit more insurance from the Pacers, from if I'm trading with the Pacers. So let's move on to our next rumor here. And this was Jake Fisher reporting that an Eastern Conference division rival of the Raptors is interested in Chris Boucher.
The line is saying, what do you got to give us, man?
Right.
The Celtics definitely would like to find a couple of other guys. And it sounds like in the front court behind Porzingis and Al Horford, as much as I love Luke Cornett, and like there's just limited salaries there. Like if you are going to want to go get someone of real value, like even, Chris Boucher, for example, is someone I know the Celtics have liked for a while. He's at 11.7 million. you're going to have to give up someone good to go get someone good.
And one thing I will say right off the bat, I mean, obviously, if the Raptors do get a chance to move off of Chris Boucher, $11.7 million, $10 million next season. So you get rid of some salary there. But taking a look at this from a Celtics point of view, and if they are to want to trade someone like a Chris Boucher, which I could understand, they always get these type of players that are okay role players, but they look so much better on the Celtics just because they're such a good team. They also have, good star power there in Jason Tatum as well. But taking a look at the salary cap situation for the Celtics, it becomes complicated again. $11.7 million. The Celtics don't have much wiggle room to work with salaries. So they actually have to send out more than they can receive. So, I mean, taking a look like Luke Cornett, O'Shea Brissett, Svi Mikhailuk, Lamar Stevens, Delano Banton, even who they just signed from the Raptors, Sam Hauser, they definitely won't give up for Chris Boucher, but those are some of the names they would have to throw in. And Peyton Pritchard, if they want to throw him in there as well to make salaries work. So for them to essentially accumulate up to $11 million, you'd probably have to throw in at least 3 or 4 of those guys. And the Raptors don't have enough roster space. So a trade of that caliber is just unlikely to work unless you get a third team involved as well. I mean, one trade that could work is Al Horford for Chris Boucher, and then you'd probably throw in one more player to make the salaries work. The Celtics aren't doing that. Al Horford is a very good role player for them. He's also someone that's an insurance in case Kristaps Porzingis, who's got an injury history, gets injured, and you have Al Horford pretty much playing the center. Obviously, from a Raptors point of view, you probably ideally want a second round pick, but again, Al Horford would be nice for them, don't get me wrong. And even an added filler, whoever one of those players may be. But I just don't see a deal getting done there. Both front offices are very stubborn. They both know what they want. And there's not a lot that the Celtics could give the Raptors, that would complement. And also just because of how many players you would have to include. So again, not much should go off here, but very interesting that, from a Raptors point of view, Chris Boucher is a player that personally I've wanted gone for quite some time. But I just don't know if there's a huge market there. But it's always interesting to see that other teams are interested in him. Let's talk about another rumor addressing the Raptors trade rumor, and that would be around Pascal Siakam and the Golden State Warriors. So Jake Weinbach, once again, the Warriors could ponder the possibility of trading Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, and draft compensation for Pascal Siakam. I think Toronto would be interested in Kuminga. A different environment could maximize the potential of the 21-year-old forward. Now, one thing I want to quickly see about this, obviously Chris Paul fractured his hand. He's getting a surgery. We don't know the timeline, and I know his next season, I believe, is not guaranteed money. He's making about $30 million, but, as good as Jonathan Kuminga is, don't get me wrong, I know people are going to go at me in the comment section. From a Raptors point of view, when you look at how their front office operates and the players they trade for, it's been said actually quite a few times that there's a few checklists that the Raptors look for when they're trading for players. And one of the things that doesn't check off with Jonathan Kuminga is running to the media and complaining about his role. That's just not the way the Raptors operate. And I mean, you're 21 years old and you're already complaining on a Warriors team that's got Steph Curry, like how it makes you wonder how much is he going to complain when he comes on the Raptors, and maybe Scotty Barnes, IQ, and heck, even RJ Barrett are getting more touches than him. It really makes you question his attitude. Those kind of things won't get you far in the NBA. We've seen it with guys like Boogie Cousins. We've seen it with multiple players. Carmelo Anthony could probably be in the NBA if his attitude was a little bit better. So again, it really makes you question attitude. I mean, heck, even Jordan Poole, is a very young player, but he's got that attitude about him where he feels like he's better than a lot of, people may view him as. Jonathan Kuminga, look, excellent player. I don't see the Warriors giving him up simply because the way the league has been trending. You want those 6'7", 6'8" forwards. 21 years old. Based off what I've seen from him, he looks like his shot creation ability is getting better. He's not a great three-point shooter, which also could be a concern if you're strictly looking for a fit around Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly. But again, Jonathan Kuminga, excellent player, very athletic. From a game standpoint of view, excellent defender. And I don't see the Warriors giving him up no matter what. I actually think they might move on to some of the other younger players like Moses Moody, Brandon Prinsinski are some of the names that we could hear, but I don't see them moving off of Jonathan Kuminga. Again, a reminder that this was a player that the Golden State Warriors didn't want to give up for OG Anunoby. I don't see them giving it up for an expiring Pascal Siakam deal. So again, we'll hear more about the Warriors as we go on, but one last rumor to address before we end the video. And this shouldn't really come as a surprise when you hear about the Raptors. And shout out to Jake Weinbach once again. He is just putting in a lot of work, and he was reporting as we're about 1 month away from the NBA trade deadline, we should be expecting plenty of action surrounding the market with a whole lot of teams signaling an interest to buy. The most active teams appearing to operate as sellers are the Blazers, Hawks, Raptors, and the Wizards. Now, ever since the NBA has included the play-in tournament, obviously, in traditional NBA where the top 8 teams would make the playoffs, this has actually given hope for, a lot of teams that may be 10th, 11th, and heck, even 12th place, which makes it very hard for teams that are looking to buy. And actually, it's a seller's market. This is excellent for the Raptors if they do wish to sell, because not a lot of teams want to sell, including a Pistons team who, have a lot of veterans, but clearly they don't want to sell because they need more veterans and less young player on that team. So if there ever was a season where the Raptors were to sell, this was it. Now, taking a look at the Raptors salary cap situation here, I think people seem to forget Pascal Siakam is a name we'll constantly hear up until the NBA trade deadline. But there's so many other names that the Raptors could potentially look to sell off. Again, when you look at the salary situation, you got Gary Trent Jr. who's making $18.5 million, but his production has been absolutely terrible. Like when you take a look at his stats of this season, he's playing off of the bench. This is something he's actually complained about when he got traded to the Raptors, about not being happy on the Blazers for that reason when he was wanting a starting role and he didn't like coming off the bench. Yet this entire season, he's been playing off the bench. Again, his field goal percentage has dipped to 39.9%. He's averaging his lowest since his second season in the NBA at averaging only 11.3 points per game. And also his minutes have gone down as well. And I want to remind you, I mean, this is a 25-year-old that wants to be starting, but also is going to be demanding anywhere from $20 million to $22 million probably in his new contract as a starting point. Now, going back to the Raptors salary cap situation here, you've got to understand that the Raptors don't really have the luxury of paying him because they've got to pay guys like Emmanuel quickly. So while there may be, some chatter about his age and him being a fit on Scotty's timeline, I just can't justify paying Gary Trent Jr. that much money given his lack of production and just him not being a really good role player off of the bench as well. So I think they should definitely look to move off of him. Chris Boucher, as I mentioned, of course, there are some other intriguing players the Raptors could look to move off of, much like Otto Porter Jr. Although there's injury issues, I think you could squeeze a second-round pick out of a team, trade him to a contender, and there's always other guys. If teams are desperate enough, maybe someone like a Jalen McDaniels. I personally wouldn't trade Jakob Poeltl just as of yet, but if the Raptors do look to, they could probably squeeze out a first-round pick for him as well and a salary filler, right? So there's a lot of players, maybe Dennis, although I don't think that would be the best move right now just because, the Raptors don't have a backup point guard. But again, depending on a lot of these players and what the return maybe the Raptors look to trade off some of these guys and clear up a lot of cap space, for next season where they've got to pay Emmanuel quickly, but also extend Scotty Barnes' new contract as well. So again, very interesting that we're hearing all these rumors leading up to a trade deadline. Raptors have been in the trade rumor mill an insane amount, and understandably so. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on these rumors. Do you see Chris Boucher maybe moved or some of the other Raptors players? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, which player leads the NBA in field goal percentage? Is it A, Rudy Gobert? Is it B, Daniel Gafford? Is it C, Jakob Poeltl? Or is it D, Nick Claxton? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. Again, I haven't had the chance to get to all of the comments from my previous videos, so thank you guys for your support. I do appreciate your patience. I will try to get to them. It's just been a lot of Raptors content you've been trying to put out based off the rumors. So again, I always appreciate your support, guys. So thank you once again, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.